"I despised him." Those words capture the pure rage that Jim Cornette feels when he talks about certain wrestlers. He is a legendary figure in wrestling. He knows the history better than almost anyone. He can talk for hours about matches from the 1970s. He understands ring psychology like few others do. But when Cornette hates someone, it is not just a small disagreement. It turns into a mission. It becomes a crusade. And in June 2017, that hatred reached a breaking point. Vince Russo, a wrestling writer who Cornette despises more than anyone else on earth, filed a legal restraining order against him. Russo claimed he felt physically threatened. He said Cornette's online attacks and public challenges had gone too far. And if you like stories like this, use the hype feature and give this video some hype, because this one gets wild fast. And Cornette responded by selling signed copies of the restraining order to raise money for charity. He turned a legal document into merchandise. That moment showed the world just how deep this hatred runs. This is not about friendly rivalry. This is about 10 people who became symbols of everything Cornette thinks is wrong with wrestling. Jim Cornette built his career on one simple idea: protect the business. That phrase means keeping wrestling believable. It means making people think what they are watching might be real. Cornette grew up in the era of territories. Back then, wrestlers kept their characters going even outside the ring. They protected kayfabe, which is the illusion that wrestling is a real sport. For Cornette, wrestling should be a sporting simulation, not performance art. And it should look like a fight between two people who genuinely want to win. The Southern style of wrestling that he loves was all about clear heroes and villains. The good guy got beaten down, then made a comeback. The crowd believed in it because it looked real. But over the decades, wrestling changed. It became sports entertainment. Wrestlers started breaking the fourth wall. They made jokes about the business being fake. They did moves that looked impossible. And to Cornette, that was a betrayal. He sees himself as a gatekeeper. He believes his way is the only way wrestling can survive long term. And when someone disagrees with him, he does not just criticize their work. He attacks them personally. He gives them cruel nicknames. He questions their intelligence and their character. Even when he makes good points about storytelling or psychology, he wraps them in so much anger that it is hard to separate the message from the venom. Now let us look at the 10 people who represent everything Cornette hates about modern wrestling. These are not just wrestlers he dislikes. They are enemies in a war for the soul of the industry. And Cornette fights this war every single week on his podcast. Number 10, Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Everyone agrees on that. But Cornette hates the version of Shawn from the 1990s. Back then, Shawn was part of a backstage group called The Clique. They had huge influence over Vince McMahon and the company's booking decisions. Cornette was on the creative team during this time, and he saw Shawn as poison. Yes, Shawn was talented. Yes, he could have incredible matches, but he was also difficult to work with. He made life miserable for other wrestlers. One example stands out. At SummerSlam 1996, Shawn faced Vader in a match where Cornette managed Vader. Shawn complained constantly during the bout. He thought Vader was too stiff, meaning he hit too hard. Shawn reportedly threatened to get Vader fired if he did not lighten up his offense. Cornette saw this as disrespect to a veteran performer. Then came the Montreal Screwjob in 1997, where Shawn was involved in one of the most controversial moments in wrestling history. That cemented Cornette's view of him as a manipulator. Now, Cornette does admit that Shawn changed later in life. After Shawn came back from retirement in 2002, he became a better person. But Cornette still holds on to the grudges from the 1990s. He cannot let go of how Shawn behaved when he was younger. That is the pattern with Cornette. He remembers every slight. He keeps every grudge alive for decades. And even when someone improves, Cornette keeps punishing them for their past. Number 9, Nick Gage. Nick Gage wrestles in death matches. That means his matches involve light tubes, glass, barbed wire, and huge amounts of blood. Cornette calls this style gore porn. He thinks it requires no athletic skill. He believes it only appeals to people who want to see violence for the sake of violence. Cornette gave Gage a nickname. He calls him bank-addicted drug robber, which is shortened to BADR. This is a direct reference to Gage's real criminal history. Gage went to prison for bank robbery. Cornette never lets anyone forget that. But what really made Cornette explode was when Gage appeared on a nationally televised all-elite wrestling program. In that match, Gage used a pizza cutter on Chris Jericho. He dragged the sharp edge across Jericho's forehead. Blood poured everywhere. Cornette was furious. He argued that putting a convicted felon on television was dangerous for the company. He said it could scare away advertisers. He claimed Gage's presence made wrestling look like a circus for criminals. Cornette believes deathmatch wrestling is not real wrestling at all. It is just shock value with no storytelling. And by giving Gage a platform, All Elite Wrestling proved to Cornette that they have no standards. They will put anyone on television as long as it gets attention. Once again, Cornette makes some fair points about storytelling, but he wraps those points in personal attacks. He does not just criticize the match, he attacks Gage's entire life. He brings up past crimes that have nothing to do with wrestling ability, and that is why even when Cornette is right about something, his message gets lost in the cruelty. Number 8, Joey Janela. Joey Janela represents everything Cornette hates about independent wrestling. Janela does dangerous stunts. He dives off balconies. He puts himself through tables. He takes risks that make Cornette's blood boil. But Cornette's main issue is not just the style, it is Janela's physique. Cornette thinks Janela looks out of shape. One day, Cornette accidentally called him Jelly Nutella instead of Joey Janela. The name stuck because Cornette thought it fit. He uses it to mock Janela's body. Cornette believes that if you do not look like an athlete, you have no business being on television. He calls Janela a talentless garbage wrestler. He says Janela is part of the mud show culture, which means low-quality independent shows that expose the business. The two have gone back and forth on social media. Janela sometimes mocks Cornette's personal life to get under his skin. Cornette responds with even more vicious rants. For Cornette, Janela proves that modern wrestling has no gatekeeping. Anyone with a pair of tights can call themselves a professional wrestler. There is no quality control. There are no standards, and that lack of standards is killing the business. But here's the thing, Janela has fans. People buy tickets to see him. He has built a career doing exactly what Cornette says is impossible. And that drives Cornette even more insane. Because if Janela can succeed by breaking all of Cornette's rules, then maybe Cornette's rules were never as important as he thought. Number 7, Joey Ryan. Joey Ryan had a gimmick that Cornette absolutely despised. Ryan played a character called a sex pest. His signature move involved using his penis as a weapon. Opponents would grab it, and Ryan would flip them over with the strength of his groin. Cornette saw this as the death of wrestling's dignity. He called Ryan Dick Boy. He said Ryan's matches made the entire industry look like a joke. For Cornette, comedy in wrestling is fine if it serves a purpose, but Ryan's gimmick was pure absurdism. It had no connection to any kind of sporting simulation. It openly mocked the idea that wrestling should be taken seriously. Then in 2020, multiple women came forward with allegations of sexual misconduct against Ryan. The allegations were serious. Ryan's career collapsed, and Cornette pointed to this as proof that Ryan was always a bad person. He said Ryan's lack of character in the ring reflected his lack of character outside the ring. Now, whether that is fair or not is debatable. Plenty of wrestlers with serious gimmicks have also been exposed for terrible behavior, but Cornette uses Ryan as the ultimate example of why outlaw wrestling should be shunned. He argues that when you let people do anything they want in the ring, it attracts the wrong kind of people. And once again, Cornette takes a complicated situation and turns it into a weapon. He does not just criticize the gimmick. He acts like the gimmick caused everything that came after. Number 6, Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn performed as El Generico in Ring of Honor. He wore a mask and played a luchador character. Cornette did not like the gimmick. He believed that funny characters do not make money. He thought the mask was holding Zayn back. Cornette reportedly pressured Zayn to remove the mask. He told Zayn that his facial expressions were his greatest asset. He said the generic luchador gimmick was a glass ceiling. Zayn would never be a top star as long as he wore that mask. Cornette also tried to sign Zayn to restrictive contracts. These contracts would have stopped Zayn from working in Japan. That move upset Zayn and contributed to him eventually leaving Ring of Honor. History has shown that Zayn became a massive star in WWE. And yes, he did eventually remove the mask. So in one sense, Cornette was right. But the way he went about it was controlling. He did not guide Zayn. He tried to force him into a mold. And when Zayn resisted, Cornette saw it as betrayal. This pattern repeats over and over with Cornette. He can identify talent. He knows what works, but he only wants people to succeed if they do it his way. If you find success by breaking his rules, he refuses to give you credit. He convinces himself that you got lucky or that you are fooling a dumb audience. He cannot accept that there might be more than one path to the top. Number 5, Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens was known as Kevin Steen in Ring of Honor. Cornette had major issues with Steen during that time. The biggest problem was Steen's physique. Cornette told Steen he needed to lose weight. He said Steen did not look like a champion. He did not have the appearance of a top-tier star. Despite this, Steen was incredibly popular with the Ring of Honor audience. Fans loved him. They connected with him. But Cornette kept putting obstacles in his path. He viewed Steen as a heel who could not be booed properly. In 2012, Cornette played an on-screen authority figure trying to block Steen's rise to the world championship. Championship. Many fans believe this storyline reflected Cornette's real feelings. At one show called Showdown in the Sun, Cornette told Steen backstage, "Tear it up, Kevin." Steen replied, "Pay attention. I always do." Then Steen went out and ripped up a Jim Cornette sign in front of the crowd. The fans loved it. Cornette even sent Steen home for 6 months, telling him to lose weight. Steen saw this as an attempt to stall his momentum. Eventually, Steen left Ring of Honor and became Kevin Owens in WWE. He became a world champion. He main evented WrestleMania. He proved Cornette wrong about everything, but Cornette still refuses to fully acknowledge it. He still thinks Steen succeeded despite his look, not because of his talent. And that stubborn refusal to admit when he is wrong is what makes Cornette so frustrating. He would rather hold on to his pride than give someone the credit they deserve. Number 4, Santino Marella. The Santino Marella situation is unique because it involved actual violence. In July 2005, Cornette was running WWE's developmental territory called Ohio Valley Wrestling. During a live show, a horror character called the Boogeyman appeared. Anthony Corelli, who later became Santino Marella, was sitting in the front row as a plant. He was supposed to look scared when the Boogeyman confronted him. Instead, Corelli laughed. Cornette saw this as sabotage. He thought Corelli was disrespecting the performers and ruining the segment. After the show, Cornette went backstage and slapped Corelli multiple times. Some reports say he slapped him a dozen times. Cornette later admitted he probably should not have done it, but he said he was frustrated with WWE management at the time. He claimed he was picturing John Laurinaitis while slapping Corelli. WWE fired Cornette over the incident, but Corelli went on to become Santino Marella on the main roster. He became a comedy character who was very successful. Cornette hated that. He saw Marella's success as a slap in the face to the industry. In 2017, the two had a confrontation at a fan convention in Detroit. Marella tried to shake Cornette's hand and bury the hatchet. Cornette refused. He called Marella a stooge and a jabroni. Security had to remove both men from the venue. This story shows how Cornette turns workplace conflicts into lifelong grudges. Corelli made a mistake during one segment. Maybe he should have taken it more seriously, but Cornette responded with physical violence. And then he held on to that hatred for over a decade. He could not let it go. He could not move on. And when Marella tried to make peace, Cornette rejected it. Because for Cornette, forgiveness means admitting he was wrong, and he will never do that. Number 3, the Young Bucks Matt and Nick Jackson are known as the Young Bucks. They are one of the most successful tag teams in modern wrestling, but Cornette cannot stand them. He calls them the Hardley Boys or the Cucamonga Kids. His main critique is their style. The Bucks do lots of spots, which are pre-planned sequences of moves. They do super kicks constantly. They sometimes do a super kick party where they hit multiple super kicks in a row. Cornette thinks this devalues what should be a powerful finishing move. The Bucks also use meta humor in their matches. They break the fourth wall. They wink at the audience. They make it clear that they know wrestling is a performance. For Cornette, this is unforgivable. It destroys the illusion. The history between Cornette and the Young Bucks goes back to Ring of Honor. Cornette was the executive producer and head booker when the Bucks worked there. He reportedly tried to phase them out of the promotion. He did not think they had the size or the serious attitude needed to be top stars. The Bucks eventually left and found massive success on the independent circuit and in Japan. They helped create All Elite Wrestling. They became millionaires. And Cornette still refuses to acknowledge their success as legitimate. He says they only appeal to a niche audience of internet marks. He claims their style cannot grow the wrestling audience. The Bucks have responded by leaning into the heat. They use Cornette's nicknames and criticisms for promotional purposes. They sell merchandise based on his insults. And that makes Cornette even angrier. For him, tag team wrestling should be about strategy. It should be about cutting the ring in half and building heat. It should look like a real fight, but the Bucks treat it like a gymnastics routine. And no matter how much money they make or how many fans they have, Cornette will never give them credit because doing so would mean admitting his entire philosophy might be outdated. Number 2, Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega might be Cornette's most hated modern wrestler. Cornette has given Omega multiple nicknames. Kenny Olivier is a reference to the actor Laurence Olivier. It suggests Omega is too theatrical. Twinkle Toes McFingerbang mocks Omega's flamboyant style. Harpo Marx compares him to a silent film comedian. All these names are designed to say the same thing. Omega is not a real wrestler. He is a performer pretending to be a wrestler. Cornette's hatred of Omega exploded because of specific matches. Omega once wrestled a 9 10-year-old girl in a Japanese promotion called DDT. He also had a match against an inflatable blow-up doll. Mr. Cornette sees these matches as proof that Omega has no respect for the business. By treating a doll like a legitimate opponent, Omega exposes wrestling as fake in the worst possible way. He insults the intelligence of the audience. Cornette also hates Omega's in-ring style. He says Omega does too many jazz hands. He complains about exaggerated facial expressions. He thinks Omega is play acting instead of actually being a wrestler. Omega works for All Elite Wrestling, where he has been a world champion and a top star. But Cornette dismisses all of that. He says Omega's style prioritizes spectacular moves over logical storytelling. Omega has fired back at Cornette. He called Cornette's followers extremely pathetic human beings. He said they have no one else to look up to. This deepened the divide between traditionalists and modern fans. For Cornette, Omega represents everything wrong with wrestling today. Too much performance art, not enough realism, too much comedy, not enough seriousness. And no matter how successful Omega becomes, Cornette will keep attacking him. Because if Omega is right, then Cornette wasted his entire life defending a version of wrestling that no longer matters. Number 1, Vince Russo. Vince Russo is not a wrestler. He is a writer, but he is Cornette's #1 enemy. The hatred between these two men defines both of their careers. Russo worked for WWE during the Attitude Era. He helped create Crash TV, which was a style full of quick segments, constant plot twists, and blurred lines between reality and fiction. Cornette hates everything about this approach. He thinks Russo made wrestling fans too smart. He believes Russo treated actual matches as less important than soap opera drama. He says Russo devalued championship titles and destroyed the industry's core identity. The two worked together in total non-stop action wrestling between 2006 and 2009. The company chose Russo's creative direction over Cornette's traditional approach. That rejection stung, but the real explosion came in June 2017. Russo filed a restraining order against Cornette. He said Cornette's online attacks and public threats made him fear for his safety. Cornette responded by mocking the whole thing. He sold signed copies of the restraining order for charity. He turned a legal document into a punchline. Iron Cornette has said his life's ambition is to outlive Russo so he can piss on his grave. He has even told his wife to make sure this happens if he is too old or sick to do it himself. That is not a joke. That is a real statement of pure hatred. Cornette calls Russo shit-stained. He uses that name constantly on his podcast. The feud was even featured on a documentary series called Dark Side of the Ring. It introduced a new generation to this decades-old hatred. For Cornette, Russo represents the moment wrestling stopped being about protecting the business. Russo cared about ratings and shock value. He did not care about long-term storytelling or making people believe. And in Cornette's mind, that approach permanently damaged the industry. Every other person on this list is bad, but Russo is the worst because Russo had power when he had influence, and he used it to destroy everything Cornette loves. Jim Cornette is a man who knows wrestling history inside and out. His knowledge is real. His passion is undeniable. He genuinely loves this business, but somewhere along the way, that passion turned into bitterness. He stopped being a teacher and became a punisher. He stopped guiding people and started attacking them. His grudges are not about making wrestling better. They are about proving he was right all along. And when the industry moved on without him, he convinced himself that the industry was wrong. He built a career out of hatred. He turned wrestlers into symbols of everything he despises. And while his podcasts are popular, the toxicity he spreads makes wrestling debates uglier and more personal. Cornette's legacy is complicated. He will be remembered for his knowledge, but he will also be remembered for his cruelty. The wrestling world moved forward, but Jim Cornette is still fighting wars that ended decades ago.